We'll call the meeting to order at 6:02 p.m. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the
flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, special thanks to Mr. Raymond and Ms. Johnson for the concert and all the students that we had downstairs for our annual Christmas concert. So round of applause to all of them. First item on the agenda is approval of the minutes for November 22nd, 2022. I'll entertain a motion to approve as presented. Motion's been made by Ms. Sullivan. She's waiting.
It said that I was present, I was not.
Words, thank you for exposing that.
Motion was made by Mrs. Noyes Miller, seconded by Mr. Haggerty. We have an edit. It's not the one you came in.
No, that was the one before that. Thanks for calling that out.
Anybody else skip it or was late? Seeing no other edits, the chair will call for a vote. All those in favor of the motion to approve the minutes as amended will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Good with Ms. Sullivan? Motion carries. All right, we'll move to the financial report. Mr. Membercow.
Okay, we're moving ahead consistent with past years as far as expenses, encumbrances, and the revenues. When you look at the balance, the financial statement, it looks to be very clean, except there's two areas of note that we need to pass on to you. One is the oil account and one is the electrical account. We put that on there just as a reminder that those areas we will be short in. However, we have encumbered money in the rural aid in order to cover that, but it's an area that we're watching as we move forward throughout the winter.
Any questions for Mr. Membercow? Steve. All right, we'll move to staff reports. Mr. Sturgis.
Just a lot going on in the Christmas season, trying to crawl to the finish line of the first half of the year, although it's not officially the first half of the year for us, because the holiday break is pretty much designating the midway point. As it's in the report, we did have our National Junior Honor Society induction in November, right after our last meeting, as well as we officially nominated our Project 351 students. The names are listed in my report from each town. And so they will be doing their day of service in January. Actually, it's the second Saturday of January. They'll be headed to Boston. And then they will be doing whatever they take back from that. I will keep you all informed of their whatever they plan for their project. Then we did have Thanksgiving baskets. And I started explaining about the last meeting. We also had our Christmas baskets where we kind of put together meals for families in our own district, our own community. And then for Christmas, we were able to put together some presents for some families as well. They're all Tantasqua stuff so that we can anonymously give that so that it's not appearing obviously from somebody else. We were able to support a lot of families. We did have a volleyball tournament after school that each team was a charity event to raise money, and all the money went towards this to be able to provide for some of our own families. And last but not least, we're back on field trips again, 2 field trips this week. 8th grade went to Mechanics Hall today to see some Edgar Allan Poe plays in action, and 7th grade will be going to see A Christmas Carol in Worcester on Thursday. And then we will be on break.
Thank you, Mr. Sturgis. Questions for Mr. Sturgis? Mr. Wood?
Sure. I'm going off the report. I want to brag about my kids for a minute. We know about the solar grant. We finally got $40,000 that's in the bank, so we started buying some stuff. We're paying a company $5,000 to come in and move the process along. And after 3 hours, they told us they can't do it. I guess what's underneath is the old tennis court, so there's a lot of rock and everything else, so they didn't want to do it. 2 of the kids said to Mr. Segan, "We can do that." So we bought shovels, we bought the concrete, and the kids dug the 15 piers. They met the engineer's specs, and I'll show you. but we are so ahead of progress on that. It is actually, the structure is built and they're actually planning to shingle it. So we are well ahead of any place where we ever thought we would be at this point. So I just want to shout out to, Mr. Sieg and Mr. Tebow, but also to the kids in carpentry. They did a phenomenal job. And I can make this official because the governor has made it official. We are also a recipient of a new skills capital grant. Technically it's a $150,000 grant. We get $19,000 matching funds. So it's just over $131,000. That is for manufacturing, and that'll be 3 new pieces of equipment. We're just waiting for the contracts so we can order, and hopefully we'll get the contracts before the end of the year, before Haas raises their prices in January.
Thank you, Mr. Wood. Questions for Mr. Wood?
Is that going to replace existing machines or
It will
add
replace,
to?
yep, it will replace the MCO, which, as they've done in the reports over the past 2 years, but at the end of this, all the MCOs are dead, and they're all gone. So over the summer, we got a new mini mill from Haas. We will get 1 more of those. We'll also get a brand new Prototrack and a really cool piece of equipment. It's a water jet printer and cutter. It's so cool, it's amazing. I can't wait. See, I'm so impatient because when they bring it in, I want to play with it, and I think we have to wire, we have to get the plumbing in. I hate that. But it's going to be cool, and hopefully, again, everything will be in place by the spring.
What's the practical application of a water cutter?
Anything you can do with a 3D printer, you can do that. Router, it gives you more mediums in which you can build things. It's really cool.
Thank you, Mr. Wood. At this time, we'll break for the introduction of our superintendent scholars.
If we could have Lily Earhart and her family come up. Come on up here. We'll do Lily first. Lily Earhart, one of our superintendent scholars. Congratulations. Lily has a GPA of 4.87. She is a member of National Honor Society and Student Council, as well as the Cancer for Kids First Club, and is the captain of the math team. She participates in both indoor and outdoor track, and is the captain of the varsity competitive cheerleading team. Lily, Lily has was an AP Scholar with distinction and has the highest honor roll for each year of high school, and received the Rensselaer Medal Award for Outstanding Academic Achievement in the study of mathematics and science. She's also the recipient of Tantasqua's Most Service to School and Community Award. Lily plans to major in mathematics in college and hopes to attend, while she's still waiting for answers, hopes to attend USC, Vanderbilt, or Wake Forest. Lily's favorite quote is, "The thing about trains, it doesn't matter where you're going. What matters is deciding to get on." Congratulations, Lily.
Lily Earhart, having duly qualified under the standards prescribed by the Massachusetts Association of School Superintendents, is hereby awarded the Certificate of Academic Excellence. Congratulations. Kodak moment. Lee loves Twitter.
Yes, sure do. Instagram more.
Great job.
Thank you.
TikTok?
Mr. Haggerty. And now, we'd like to have Zoe Zhu come on up, and her family.
Can we all come up? Yes.
Absolutely.
We got plenty of room up here.
It's a family affair.
It's a family celebration, for sure. Zoe Zhu has a GPA of 4.84. She is the Vice President of our National Honor Society and manages the NHS tutoring program. She is also a member of Student Council, Connections for Peer Leadership, and is in the Diversity, Newspaper, and Ski Clubs. Zoe is an AP Scholar with Honors, a National Rural and Small Town Scholar, and Best Presentation winner at our Science Fair. She's also been awarded the Massachusetts American Legion Auxiliary Girls State Certificate. Zoe's passion is swimming, and she's been on our swim team all 4 years of high school. She's also the captain of the YMCA swim team, as well as being a lifeguard and swim instructor. Zoe plans to major in biology or pre-med in college and hopes to go to Harvard, Tufts, or Amherst College. Zoe's favorite quote is, "These faults and mistakes are what I am, making up the brightest stars in the constellation of my life. I have come to love myself for who I was, who I am, and who I hope to become." Congratulations.
Duly qualified under the standards prescribed by the Massachusetts Association of School Superintendents, is hereby awarded this certificate of academic excellence. Congratulations.
Thank you for coming. Great
Yeah,
job.
want to take a
Oh,
family picture?
Shall I, Zoe?
Perfect.
Thank you.
Great job.
Sorry, Dizzy.
We'll come back to the high school report. Mr. Rosen, why don't you take it away for us?
Thank you. So, well, the holiday concert just happened, and that was successful. So we have the performing arts well underway, and we had a Warrior Day of Service hosted by Student Council beginning in December. We made holiday cards, blankets, bell cards for children at Boston Children's Hospital. And also, what we have tomorrow is a surprise for the staff, and then also the bus drivers, Student Council Appreciation Day, scheduled for the morning. They're giving out hot chocolate and other assorted goods in the morning. So we have that, so we've been planning for that. The toy drive concluded, and that was immensely successful. We were able to provide gifts for many families from all 5 towns. We had a lot of participation across the board from not just the community, but faculty and other members of the school. Also, on December 12th, we had a subcommittee meeting. Some of the students came and we talked about kind of the environment, and this seems like a good midway point to kind of consider where the students are. Since this is one of the more normal years since the last 2, and a lot of student attitudes has improved. We're at the point now where before there was apprehension towards the school setup, like people didn't like hybrid, and rightfully so, but you had people kind of having that attitude, and it wasn't, the morale was down. But now I think people are sort of, if they are complaining, it's about the normal things that everyone always kind of talks about, like having to wake up in the morning, all the normal things that we had kind of before. We had more problems on our plate, and people are doing activities. People are resuming in normal academic activities, developing their former study habits, staying after more regularly, doing clubs and activities, which I think speaks volumes to how we've all come a lot, and how the environment is becoming more back to where it was. So that's an abstract piece that should be noted. So that's promising. We had our science club meeting beginning of the month, and we had 2 research presentations, one on the nervous system and another one on gene editing. We had CRISPR cluster regularly into space, short palindromic repeats. For the rest of the evening, we'll just kind of end there with the science, but it's not every day that in the curriculum with time and everything that we're able to, like, for instance, we we spoke about, debated with each other about the moral implications of some of this technology and everything, but it's not every day that in regular classes you get to something like gene editing, but it's also not every day that you have enough time to put aside what you have to get to and look at something extra. So it's good to have this supplementary body that can be a basis of enrichment. And the same holds true for groups like the math team, for even the newspaper from an English perspective, and the humanities scholars offered by the history department. So we're seeing enrichment now, which we're looking at things that are extra, which after, again, these last 2 years, you would imagine it might take some time before we can start looking at additional things, but we're doing that and then some. But everyone is excited for the break at this midway point, and everyone's preparing for finals. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Jake? No? For you?
It's a little short, so hopefully nice. So in Allied Health, our seniors delivered over 70 gifts that they all bought and wrapped to deliver to the residents on their long-term care unit facility, which they have been attending clinical regularly on. After break, they're going to start their acute care rotations with more specific care and things like that. The CAD students have focused on reverse engineering projects, taking things apart, putting them back together as they were before. They had a 2019 graduate recently come in and speak to the class about what they applied CAD to, where it took them, and things that they were interested in. And right now they are focusing on scale models of their own properties that they've designed in the computer, that they're now going to use a 3D printer and stuff like that to bring it to life. Business tech students have continued their revamp of the store with a bunch of new products hitting the floor. There's a new crew neck, a really nice black vest, jogger sweatpants. They told me to specify jogger sweatpants, and nice long sleeves. Hospitality and culinary have continued their 5-star service through food and serving the public. And right now they are focusing on testing for a ServSafe manager after the break to continue the management aspect of things and keeping things up to par, especially when they leave after. Overall, we have 12 students that are in co-op right now, which is some of the highest participation that we've seen in co-op. Students going out, working, including myself, which is really nice, really convenient. And you get to apply a lot of new stuff. Personally, I've taken co-op and done a lot of social media marketing with my boss, who's not really familiar with Instagram, Facebook, things like that, but I've definitely helped the business with flyers, creating media flyers and stuff like that to help outreach. So they really appreciate the time that we can put in as students, being able to work there and whatnot. Skills USA is celebrating a holiday gathering tomorrow with relay games, snacks, and music as they continue to register students for competition in the spring season. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Any questions for the student representatives? We'll just back up the staff report. Ms. Joseph.
Apologize. As they've shared, we have a very robust academic and and extracurricular world here. If you walk the halls, you're seeing robust conversations on the 4th floor in the math department this week was about solving problems with inequalities, and then moving along to our foreign language, where they are celebrating the culture of the countries that they are studying. Shakespeare performances on the 3rd floor, and many debates in the history department, and then labs in the sciences. So we have a lot going on, and it's great to see how engaged our students are. But our student programs run by students, student council, all the things that Jake mentioned, NHS, just doing a fantastic job. Ways to bring our community together here within the building, and outreaching as well. As they said, we had the day of service, which was highly successful. Being able to give back, one of the things that they did was make care packages and care blankets. Those go to our students here. Typically, those students who have lost family members or are undergoing something serious, they are recently reached out to the elementary school principals to offer the same kind of service to the elementary schools as well. They're also looking to sponsor things like a birthday club for elementary schools or birthday kits, since not all families can afford to do things for birthdays. So they're looking of finding ways to involve the elementary schools, which is great to see. So lots of things going on there. Our sports season is underway. We've had our first series of home meets and games. And it's nice to see everybody back, and certainly those people, especially indoor track and swim, who weren't able to be there in the past, they're back, which is great. We've also seen our community come together as we have a family who lost their home in Wales as well. And so we've had a great outreach from both our students and our staff looking to help support that family. They already indicate that they have what they need for the winter months. They'll come back to us come spring, and we're assisting them through the holidays as well. So we have lots of great things going on. And NHS has also expanded as well to not just tutor students here in need, but they're also reached out to the junior high school and have some members there. They have a high number of students who have requested supports, to the point that they've actually reached out to some of their honors students in the 10th grade who are not in NHS, but they haven't received that invite yet, and they're burgeoning there. So it's definitely a growing program. Other than those things, you'll see in your report that I do have a travel proposal for you. It has a great deal of information about the travel itinerary associated with it, and we are hoping here tonight that you will take the opportunity to review that, and we are looking for your support in that. And we also have Terry Boschka here as well. Terry is the staff member bringing this proposal forward to you, should you have any questions.
Questions for Ms. Joseph in general on the report? And then we'll get to the trip. Any questions on the report? All right, questions on the trip for us? Mr. Haggard?
Yeah, I'm just curious, does this have any connection with our curriculum?
So Ms. Boschka is a member of the mathematics department, and it won't relate directly necessarily to her curriculum, but one of the individuals that is looking to join her on this trip would be one of our foreign language teachers, and there certainly the experiences of visiting other cultures could have that curricular connection. This is more about the cultural experiences and what those experiences bring to that open-mindedness to bring back here, to bring back education and those experiences and background to their learning here and to share with their peers.
Other questions, Ms. Sparkle?
Yeah, have arrangements been made for people who can't afford the trip to go? Are there scholarships? Are there other ways of paying?
So there are no scholarships, but there is fundraising opportunities for individuals who want to go on the trip but maybe can't put the money forth themselves.
They do offer scholarships, that they give out $100,000 every year to students. So there is a scholarship that they can apply for, so that there will be a link that they can.
You're talking about nationwide?
It's nationwide, but they have had students from every state receive those scholarships.
But no formalized program through Tantasqua.
No.
It's been a while since we've approved one of these trips, so I'm just trying to recall, historically speaking, if we look at trips of a similar nature, what percentage of the students outright have their families pay versus fundraising support?
I will tell you honestly, I don't have that data to be able to share with you. I would need to go back to not having been in this position before during those trips, and some of those staff members who have sponsored them are no longer with us. I would have to go back to look at that data.
Okay. I asked because we ask the question of fundraising every time. We hear, yes, there's fundraising options, but I don't necessarily ever see what the output is in terms of what percentage of students that participated vis-a-vis fundraising. And if that percentage is extremely low, then I question the manner in which we're permitting fundraising. Again, just thinking about this from an equitable perspective, and ensuring that all students have an opportunity to participate. So Perhaps you can explain to the committee what you envision in terms of fundraising options for students that can't afford this.
Yeah, so EF Tours does have a payment plan, so students can sign up and there's a payment plan and they have 14 months to pay it off. And so Lee said that it would be through the school that they would do fundraising. They do have a donation page, so when kids sign up for their payment plan, there is a link where people are like, they have Christmas gifts from family members, they can go directly to that link, or Christmas, or if they want to babysit, they can go directly to that link. So it's not like they're doing a GoFundMe, but if they are aware, there are ways that they can have people donate directly to their own personal link. And then if we did fundraising, it would be, you said it would be by person, right? It would be a specific, as they are involved, it would go directly to the people who are involved in that fundraising.
All right, so we talked about the fact that we have our own wellness policy in place. That's part of it. We have a policy in place with regard to fundraising, particularly you're talking about, crowdsourcing and things like that, and the caution on that. And then we did discuss that if fundraisers were to take place in a collective manner, we'd want to make sure that, number one, it's in line with what our policies are here as a district, what our protocols are within the high school. And the other part is the discussion as to whether when individuals fundraise, they're fundraising toward their own personal trip and not then distributing equitably to reduce the cost of the trip for everybody. So the reason we talked about that is that think about when you did group projects, you have some individuals who work really hard and do a great deal, and others that don't work as hard because they don't see that as a priority. So that's where I indicated that we would, when they do the fundraiser, would be looking to have whatever it is that they earned credit their personal balance.
So I just want to make sure I'm clear. So the options are pay in full, a payment plan, which effectively takes the cost of the trip and amortizes it over a period of time, so you're still paying the full boat. Soliciting donations from people, or you're open to fundraising proposals, but there are no current activities in place that would supplement this.
Correct.
Okay.
The only thing that I would have, are you putting aside a couple spaces for people that, like, indigent, kids that can't afford it, so there's an opportunity to, not all kids are gonna be able to make, build up $2,000, or even if they're fundraising, which there's no options yet, but. 4,000? Okay.
Yeah, but it's at 14. Oh, so they have
20,
yeah.
Well, that's my only concern, is giving an equal opportunity to all students, some that can afford and some that can't.
Mrs. Barnacle.
The other thing is, I'd like to see more description of the educational benefits of this. Now, I know a trip to the Mediterranean is going to, have a lot of benefits for everybody. But I'd like to know specifically, someone said, well, the person leading it is a math teacher. What's the math class? And what's the learning experience that attaches to the math?
Well, I'm more than a math teacher. I'm actually a Navy brat, so I moved all over the world, and also, my daughter just did a semester in France. So just the benefit of being, having that global perspective is what I want to bring. I love the history of math, and I'm sure there's things I can bring in, but I wouldn't be coming to teach math on this trip. It would be more the cultural experience. They do have a tour guide with us the whole time that does the cultural, the historical, that kind of stuff, that they bring that in. The students can get a 0.5 credit if they want to put some extra time in, do a video, they do some research. There's even a possibility of a 3-credit college credit they can get if they do something else. So there's things that they can do on their own to make this more educational. But as a teacher, I'm looking for every opportunity to provide exposure historically, culturally, just all the senses that they'll get to experience. It's just be fantastic. I have a couple of kids I asked in my class, like, why would you want to do this? And they're like, one was like, well, I feel like it's not fair that other schools do these and we don't. Other kids are like, I just don't think I'll get another opportunity to do something like this. I mean, they just were like very interested in having the opportunity to do this. So there's definitely interest.
You'll require 7 chaperones for this trip?
Well, the maximum is 42 students, so it's a 6-to-1 ratio. So if we only have 18 kids sign up, we would only need 3 chaperones. So we need, and I've already had several people show interest, so I don't think finding chaperones will be a problem. So right now, I've got 3, myself and 2 others that are definite. And then, love to have a male join us, get another male. But the max they say is 42 just for the buses and what's available. I mean, obviously if there's more interest in a second one, but for this particular trip, it would have to limit to 42.
But if you get 42, you'll need roughly 7 chaperones. And the cost for those chaperones is bared by the chaperone themselves?
No,
or is
so
that covered by
the
the
EF
cost?
Tours has a policy that they provide, they cover the chaperone's trip for every 6. So 6 students who sign up, the chaperone goes free, basically. That's their policy.
So the students are paying for the chaperones?
That's not how EF presents it. They say that that's their offering to it. So like, it's not, it's like if there's 5 students, 6 students, it doesn't change the cost, that they're not technically paying. Like EF Tour would not say that that's coming out of their money.
So when a teacher volunteers for this, they don't get paid for it. They're basically taking a week or 2 weeks out of their summer, and then they're being compensated by not having to pay for the plane ticket and the other things.
Is this during school time, though?
This proposal is for April vacation of 2024.
And it's leaving on a Saturday and come back. So there's no school being missed unless there's a weather issue, but it leaves on a Saturday and comes back on a Sunday.
So I didn't hear that last. I'm sorry.
It leaves on a Saturday and we come back on a Sunday, so there's no school being missed. And we made that clear that we can't miss any school, so that's part of the package.
I bring up the chaperone question because 10 years ago, we ran into this issue where there were concerns expressed by parents that we had trips where effectively adults' costs were being fully covered by the cost that the students were paying. And we at that time stipulated that there would only be one freebie for the trip. And so it sounds like what you just said is that if you get 18 students to go and 3 chaperones to go, those 3 chaperones aren't paying anything.
Right, but that's EF Tour, that's not us doing that, that's EF Tour's plan. And
Well, they're calculating that into your cost.
Yeah.
but it's not like if you have 4 students, 5 students, their cost isn't being balanced out by that. And you have to understand the chaperones are working too. I mean, they're responsible for these children, they're doing a lot. That's their time that they're giving. So, I mean, it's not that it's not like a free trip, it's work. You know, it's a great opportunity, but it's like, it's not our policy, it's EF's Tours policy.
Have you asked EF Tours what the cost per student would be if the chaperones paid for themselves?
No.
Mr. Haverty?
Yeah, I applaud your effort and your interest in doing this. I have concerns about trips that don't somehow relate to our curriculum. While I think cultural experience is great, I'd just like to see it aligned a little bit more with the learning that takes place in our schools. And the other thing that concerns me, I mean, there were obviously some nightmares pre-COVID or right around COVID time with companies who left kids stranded abroad. So I'm a little less enthusiastic about foreign trips at this point. So I would not be inclined to vote to approve it.
My only input in regards to that is it is during April vacation. So it's not like it's a school-bound trip. Yes, they are going, but it's during April vacation. So technically, it's on their own time. It's not really on their school time. But I agree with you in regards to the COVID and, you know, what happens when if something comes up and they get stranded over there. And I also have that partial part about the EF Tours paying for the chaperones. That's the only thing that also kind of, it's like I can understand if the chaperones are chaperones, but they should be paying a portion of their trip.
I can ask that question if that's something they can do. I don't know how they set that up, but they do talk about if there's any COVID issues. They have a lot of policies in place. If a child's sick, they provide, a hotel charge. They take care of them. say, if something happens, like it's dangerous, they have all that covered in their notes here. And we do have a Spanish teacher going, so there will be that connection with the language curriculum.
Those are just
Ms. Boschman, did you look at any other tour companies?
I did look at one called Horizon, I think it was, and this one just has the best track record, and our school has used it in the past, and it just seemed like the better. And I know other schools that have used it, and I've been very happy with them. And
So-
other teachers that have used them.
Do we know the last time that we've had an international trip?
Just before
Just
COVID,
before
they,
COVID.
yeah,
Okay.
at McKinstry went,
Oh, and
and Helena Pines, just before
Yeah.
COVID hit.
Is that who they used was EF Tours?
EF Tours, and it was,
I know
and
there's
that,
a lot of other ones.
and that wasn't 10 years ago, that was much, maybe 5-6 years ago.
No, the trip I'm referring to was a
No, I
music
understand,
trip.
but we have done, can I just, having chaperoned an EF tour, you do work as a chaperone, trust me. I'm always the person who says, tie it to curriculum. This is a once-in-a-lifetime experience. Like, when you're in Barcelona and you have to figure out as a kid, how do you use the subway system? That's a learning experience. That is an amazing learning experience, because you don't want to get caught up. It's the airports, when you have to go from one to another, and then when you go into the restaurants, it is a huge once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for kids. And so I would hope that we can figure out a way to make this work.
Yeah, Mark, I don't think anybody's disputing it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for kids. I think what we're talking about is an economic climate right now that is less than positive for most people. And a trip that we've already indicated really we have no structured fundraising for. And a cost per student that includes a free trip for an adult. And I'm not disputing that there's not work that goes into chaperoning, but they should have some skin in the game here. And right now, they have none in this proposal. Mr. Haggerty?
The other thing too, that I guess I get concerned about the school district, basically, if we approve this, we are liable for whatever goes, regardless of what insurance they have. This is a school-sponsored event, and we have the liability for it. And I just would feel better if we're somehow more directly related to our curriculum.
At the time, I don't have a motion on the table, so does someone wish to make a motion? If not, we'll continue.
I
Make
guess
a
my,
motion.
not a motion, if I could just kind of bring this back to, I guess what I'm curious about. So I have some of the same questions that Bill does. I think the COVID issue that's gonna be up to the parents if they decide they wanna take the risk. We have to be clear in our communication, but at the same time, that's not our decision to make necessarily. If we feel like we have if we express clearly what are the risks around COVID, and I think each parent can make their own decision on that. But in terms of curriculum, I agree with what Bill's saying, but but I also think this is something that's different, right? Like, this is something that's beyond what we could be giving. I guess that would be my other question would be, how have other schools tied it to curriculum, right? Is that something that could be do? It doesn't seem like that would be impossible to do, talking about going to the Mediterranean and figuring out how to tie it into your history, your English, your mathematics, all those things. That's not, so that would make sense. I agree with Bill that I would like to see some connection there, exactly. And then I guess around I think Mike has a good point that I'd like to see a plan, but around how we would do the funding, right? And how we've done it historically, or and what's worked and what hasn't worked. But I think also that our kids have been, having kids at this age, our kids have been in caves. And if we can give an opportunity for our kids to get out and go experience something, this is something that we should figure out how to, whether it's this tour group or some other proposal or whatever, I think it's a good idea, and I think it's something we want to kind of push forward as a school committee.
One of the things that Terry and I talked about was that our community formerly had things like Operation Friendship and People to People. Those were groups that families, students could become involved and link together with the community, and in some cases, Operation Friendship hosted something for 3 weeks, and then you traveled for 3 weeks. For People to People, you spend a year working together, learning about where you are going together as a group, and then you go and you travel for 3 weeks, and then you all disperse because they're from all over. People to People is defunct. It was a nonprofit. It then tried to turn from nonprofit to profit and went bankrupt in 2016. Operation Friendship does still exist. It exists in pockets in 2 areas in Massachusetts and also in Indiana, so when we looked it up. So we looked at the fact that these opportunities typically don't avail themselves to kids anymore if it isn't for either their families or for schools to put something together. I think curricularly we could come up with things. Certainly, the challenge then becomes when you have students register, they're going to be in a variety of different classes with different curricular connections, and how do you make that work? But certainly it's something that we can look at. Those are the added discussions that we had that I wanted to make sure I shared with you.
Well, do you mind if I just one more thing? Yep. So I'd also say that I think that we have to also look at it, and I agree that we want to make this something that's fair to all economic levels. But if we don't put something like this, if we don't offer, or some other group doesn't offer something like this, then only the wealthy kids are going to be able to have experiences like that.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So I think that's fair.
And when these trips have come in the past, whether it be a music trip or others, I've seen much more rigorous and robust fundraising proposals to open the door to ensure that we're being equitable. And I think, what you've heard around the table is concerns around equity and inclusion, which we need to be focused on. Those are pillars of this district. Curriculum connection, as well as really some open questions that I think you need to do some research on relative to the chaperoning costs and how that might be, how there might be other models. And so with that, I would entertain a motion to table this for now until we have more answers on that information.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made by Mr. Haggerty and seconded by Mrs. Panic. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, is there a discussion on the table? No. Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Sorry, what is the deadline for setting this
So
up?
with this particular program, there's a deadline for a $200 discount, but you're going to have the meeting before January 1st to do it, to get the discount. And then it's the $200 off of the $3,800, $3,600. So that's the deadline for that, but, I mean, it is what it is.
And the other thing that I would like to see you look into, the cost for that chaperone, whether this trip is $4,000 or we're charging the chaperones $2,000 of that $4,000. Because just to see our options of how you can work that would be another thought behind that.
May I? I too have chaperoned many of these trips, at least 3 Europe trips. And no disrespect, the main coordinator absolutely works very hard going up to it and the whole time. In every trip that I've gone to, I have paid. Either the same or maybe a little bit less than the students. Yeah. So I've got to believe there's some way that they could work out, here's the total bill divided by, and if there was some way for chaperones to pay for some of theirs, they will be chaperoning. But again, I've chaperoned, and you're getting a lot of joy and trip, great experience yourself while watching, especially if it's a 5 to 6, if it's a 6 to 7 ratio. I've had higher. So if there is some way to have the chaperones, except for your main facilitator, paying a chunk, that the difference then could be spread out amongst everybody and lower the kids' cost, because it is a fantastic experience for kids that many of them won't. This price is enormous, and I don't know, I'm not convinced that kids who are struggling, you're going to get them to even say, let me throw my hat in for the first month of $250, unless we find a way to get that down for them. And I've definitely seen kids who have struggled and would never have that opportunity otherwise be there and benefit greatly.
On the floor is a motion to table. All those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carries. All right, that brings us to committee reports. Budget, Mrs. Noyes Miller.
We have not had a meeting. We hope to be able to schedule a meeting after the holidays to go over the policies that were voted at the last meeting for budget to look at. And then we have our budget meeting on Saturday, January 1st.
Questions for Mrs. Noyes Miller? Thank you, Mrs. Noyes Miller. That brings us to technical, Mr. Gillen.
So as you can see by the notes, we struggled to find a space, so we were forced to have it at the Cornerstone Cafe. Struggled through that. Yeah. And I'll let you read through the notes, but this isn't my first time, and a lot of the other committee members have been on this before. I would encourage anyone, if you haven't ever taken a tour. Mr. Wood's busy about 24 hours a day writing grants, but the other 1 hour a day you probably take on a tour.
That's amazing.
Just the interaction with the students and seeing what they're doing and the enthusiasm. We were actually in the hallway when the whole incident happened with the solar panels and finding the rocks, and I'm curious as to whether or not that was with the student or not. I don't know. But the enthusiasm and the absolute we can get this done, there's no challenge we can't to overcome attitude is just amazing. So I would encourage anyone to set a tour if you get a chance. That's all I got.
Mr. Gillen, any questions?
And the roasted Brussels sprouts
They were
were fantastic.
Everything was fantastic. Those were really good.
Very nice. We should have those tonight. Brings us to curriculums. Barnacle.
I'm assuming someone else is.
I have the report
Sorry,
today.
Mrs. Cunningham's got the report.
Okay, so we met on Monday, December 12th. We started, I feel like Jake stole a little bit of my thunder. We did have 4 students join us for discussion, so 2 8th graders, Alexis Bird and Lily Sturgis, and then Elise Genoway, a junior and student council president, and Jake Rosen, a senior and student council VP. The students were asked to elaborate on responses to the question, what are some important qualities, characteristics, or features of a trusted adult educator? There were a lot of overlapping responses between the junior high and senior high, including trust, acceptance, love, understanding, friendliness, kind, gentle, caring, helpful, respectful, and honest. We also discussed the advisory period and the differences between how it's used in the junior high versus the senior high. So that was a good discussion. We talked about the program of studies changes. So the goal is to finish edits before the Christmas break. We're looking to build up the performing arts program to offset some PE, especially during A block. And some new course proposals include chorale, symphony band, music and sound and film, and intro to fire and emergency response. For general school updates, technology is negatively impacting our school community and taking over some of the unstructured time. There's been an increase in bullying reports, mostly because of social media. Mediation has been emotional at times, but well received and seemingly very effective. And the school is looking to explore and expand the peer training programs on mediation. The Peer Leadership Connections was mentioned previously. That used to be grant funded and has now been moved to the budget. And then the next meeting is scheduled for Monday, February 6th. We plan to discuss the topics of the student handbook, tech division, and final draft of the course catalog.
Thank you, Mrs. Cunningham. Any questions for Mrs. Cunningham? Mr. Joseph?
Just since the time that we met, we did receive additional course recommendations from the Life Skills Department that we had not received prior to that. I will forward that to Jody Barassa to share with you. They submitted 3 proposals, 2 of them moving forward for further discussion. One is a class on the art of coaching and officiating. So it's the study of sports that can be officiated, such as basketball, football, soccer, volleyball, etc. They will look at the history of the sport, the rules of the sport, the positions of the sport, and then look at film tape and talk about coaching and also talk about officiating. The other course that is being discussed, sorry, I'm going blank at the moment. I will share with them. The other that was, and the 2 that are being discussed don't have any implications on the current budget. The one that is being tabled is the one that would have an implication on a budget, and that is an outdoor activity-based PE class. So I've asked them to develop what that looks like, what the activities look like, and cost that out. So that would include things such as rock climbing wall, fishing, kayaking. So those would include some field trip based programs, and if it's going to be part of the class, then it should be part of the budgeted cost, if that's the expectation for the delivering of curriculum. So that one is back to the drawing board.
Great, thank you. We'll move the negotiations. Mrs. Randall?
No meeting, no report.
And building a physical plan, Mrs. Leo.
No meeting yet, we do have one planned for March.
Great, thank you. Brings us to communications. Anyone ready?
Just do final.
And then Mrs. Boyd, your report.
Just a couple quick ones, actually. Everybody else has taken all of the wind out of my sail with all the holiday fun. So just two little FYIs. The OSA Charter School request to, or application to expand has again been denied this year. I know. So, they move on. That's good for us and all of our elementary districts too, for that matter. Excuse me?
Now they're just coming after us.
Exactly. And actually, Spencer East Brookfield was a strong advocate against. Yeah. And just FYI, we have not talked about SRO in a while, but today, officially today is the first time, despite the model we put in place many years ago, I received SRO signed agreements from the last of our other 4 elementary communities. Brimfield had not signed agreements and had not had trained SROs, and as of this afternoon, I have signed agreements. So the program has been working great with Holland. We had a Holland SRO here filling in last week when the Sturbridge officer was out at training, and Wales is always available, and we got one last year from Brookfield. Haven't had too much involvement yet, but we've got the signed agreement, so we continue with that model, and I'm very thankful. It's working well, and our SROs are working well together.
Chief Ford is very happy.
Yes, I'm sure he is.
All right, that brings us to unfinished business, which will also act as the bylaw and policy update, and on behalf of Mrs. Fitzgerald. So I will entertain a motion to approve JICA on second reading, AC on second reading, GBA on second reading, GCF on second reading, JB on second reading, and JFBB-1 on second reading, all for adoption. Motion's been made by Mrs. Noyes Miller, seconded by Mrs. Randall. Discussion. All those in favor of the motion will say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. We have no new business. We'll go to public access. Nobody for public access. That takes us to open forum.
I do
Mr.
have a
Lamont
question
is counting
in
down.
regards to
Ms. Customs, yes.
the library situation at the high school. I heard something about the library and the kids aren't able to go to the library unless they have a teacher that's signed them into the library after school. I didn't know what was happening with that. What was happening?
Happy to answer. Mark, chime in. So currently, our library assistant did leave us, and that left us with a gap. We did put something out to our teachers who are currently subbing after school. The library is open Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday currently until 3:30, and our newly hired staff member will begin on January 3rd. She does come to us with library experience and school experience, having worked in a previous school setting, so we are thankful of that. We will resume our normal hours when she is in place. However, we have implemented a PASS program, currently speaking, where if students need to stay after school for academic reasons, they should get a pass from the teacher of the course for which they need to do the academic work for. If they are here after school for a sport program or a fine arts program and they don't have transportation to go home and need to stay here, we have the rosters provided in the library where they will sign in under the roster. So their name, they do not need a pass, that roster serves as their daily pass. For those students who are school choice, who have transportation issues, they have been instructed to work with us as administration. The reason we needed to implement this is because while we say to students and families with regularity that students should be after school for school-related activities in a supervised location, help session with teachers, clubs or activities with their advisor, athletic events with their coaches, and in fine arts groups with their instructors. We still had many students staying after for the sole purpose of socializing. And that began to become a burden upon our staff and upon the other students who are working to take care of things academically. So that is why we needed to implement that change.
And quite frankly, resulting in some disciplinary actions and work on your administrators. That was never the intention of keeping, and we've staffed and changed staff over the years to make sure that the library is open until 5 for all of the good reasons. But we definitely have a bit of a pattern of folks hanging out just to hang out, and that caused disruption and inappropriate behavior, so we just put some structure around it.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, after school, we just don't have the full robust staff after school that we have during the regular school day for supervision. And so we can't accommodate everybody to stay freely.
Thank you. I
Just a
appreciate it.
quick
Thank you.
question on that, because this actually hit my household today, because my son was supposed to stay after, and then his APChem teacher couldn't stay the whole time, and he's like, I have to go home, they're saying it, so in that case, it was funny, but I'm like, I don't think that's really true, but anyways.
We do have a contingency plan there that we've communicated to teachers, yeah.
Oh, okay, so should he just get a pass from that APChem, get the questions, and then he can go to the library?
Yeah, so for those students who are staying after with a teacher, particularly this came up with teachers, if it's their late night, they are here until 3:15. So the students should stay with the teacher until 3:15. But there are other teachers who stay multiple nights. They've stayed for their late night, they're staying because a student has requested, I can't meet with you on Tuesday, or I need a little bit extra help, can I stay for this period of time? And the teacher may not be staying until 3:15. We indicated if that is to happen, that the teacher can they can send them with the pass then, once the student is done. They can send them with the pass then, or walk them there if that's their preference too.
So the same goes for like a student that would need to work on a research paper. They just need to get a pass from that teacher saying, I need this time in the life,
Yes.
and they're good to look.
Yep.
Good to know. Thank you very much. I
Yep.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Anything else for open forum? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
We don't, they're all wondering, we don't need the executive session. It's on the agenda, but it will probably be postponed and back in January, but not happening tonight.
Merry Christmas. Merry All those in favor of adjournment will say aye.
Aye.
Have a nice holiday.
You too. Thank you.
How many more signatures are needed on that?
There's only a few, actually, where are they?